Coming to the stage now, I'd like to introduce the VP of Global Marketing, Global Product Marketing for Click, James Fisher. In his role as a VP of Global Product Marketing at Click, James is responsible for leading the team that helps drive the product and innovation strategy, messaging, thought leadership, and go-to marketing strategies. He's over 18 years experience in global software and consulting business, focusing on analytics, performance management, finance, and mobile solutions. Prior to joining Click, he ran a product marketing for analytics, mobile, and finance solutions at SAP, and previously held various marketing and consulting roles at Business Objects, Cartesis, PwC, KPMG, and he currently resides in the UK. Please welcome to the stage James Fisher, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to offer a few thank yous. First of all, to the South Africa Click team, all of our partners, and you, all of our customers. On behalf of the global management team at Click, we thank you for the time that you're giving us today. It is a long agenda, I've seen all of it, and we thank you for your partnership and the faith that you put in us and our partners to help you uncover data-driven possibilities in your organizations. I also want to add a personal thanks to the team for inviting me down here. It's nice to get out of the UK, particularly this week. I think like Graham, I probably did something like 24, 25 countries last year. But the week of the actual Brexit vote, yes, it's quite a nice week to come to South Africa where the weather's great, but it's also one positive thing about Donald Trump in that he's a massive distraction from all of the Brexit stuff that's going on back home. So thank you for the opportunity to be here in this wonderful country. As we think about data-driven possibilities and we think about Graham's presentation and what a great presentation it was, and the opportunity that we all have, and hopefully if you're in this room, you're passionate about data as I am. But we have a huge opportunity ahead of us. And that opportunity is being driven by three fundamental forces, three elements that come together and create a tipping point in the way in which we can all leverage data and analytics to drive insight in our personal lives, in our business lives, and in a whole range of use cases. It's been driven, first of all, by this idea of the explosion of data. And we'll talk a bit more about the volume, velocity, variety of data a bit later. But there is essentially so much more information that is available to us. The question really becomes, how do we drive insight? How do we drive real value from that data? But nevertheless, it exists. When you add to that the idea of the immense computing power that we now have at our fingertips, not just in terms of the actual computers itself, but where that computing power resides, right at the edges of the organization, on our phones, it creates a unique opportunity to consume and drive insight wherever we are. And then I've used the plus symbol here, but really it's a multiplier. The rise of the information activist, the rise of the individual that wants to take advantage of the data that's available to them so that they can do their job better, be better in their personal life, whether it's fitness. There's a huge opportunity there, and it's creating a tipping point. And each of these three components is growing exponentially. There's no limit, essentially, to how quickly these things can and indeed are growing. But that in itself creates a challenge, because there's a fourth dimension here around data literacy, around the ability that we actually have to drive insight and value from the data which is available to us. And that cannot grow at the same exponential rate. So as we move into 2017, we're seeing a number of key trends in the BI and analytics market which will drive us to engage and think about the data that we have and the analytic processes we support in fundamentally different ways. And they will create a whole range of new opportunities, new business cases that we can take advantage of. If you think about some of the examples that Graham highlighted there, and maybe Graham, I'll come and find you afterwards, but I challenge anybody to say that there isn't a role for data in any single one of those opportunities. It's present in everything. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these trends on this slide. In fact, I'll tweet out a link to a blog that goes through all of these in much more detail. But I want to highlight just a couple of them that I think are really important in terms of the way we're looking at building analytic strategies in our organizations as we move forward. The first of those is all around this idea, essentially, of visual rendering, moving to context-driven visualization and analytics. It's this idea that visualization will move from simply analysis only to something that sits right across the information supply chain. So what do I mean by that? So this definition is from MIT. This is a definition of what it means essentially to be data literate. The ability to read, work, analyze, and argue with data. So if you think about those four components, this idea of reading is really all about understanding data, understanding the structure and the context of data. Working is really being able to bring all of that data together. It's about predefining and structuring that data so you can drive insight from it. Analyzing it is that process of gaining insight into what has happened and what is likely to happen in the future. And arguing with data is a critical fourth component in terms of your ability to tell a story, to generate a narrative, and take action off the back of the insight that you can deliver. So in order to do that, we're seeing that there's a dramatic shift in the way analytic solutions need to work in terms of the definition of data semantics and categories of data, the support that we deliver for data preparation capabilities, the way that moves into a visual analytic framework which is not just about the presentation of data, but the actual exploration of data within a visualization. And of course, the storytelling and collaboration capabilities. So the idea of visualization as just a presentation layer is going to continue to change dramatically. We've already started seeing that in some of the solutions and use cases that are out in market today, and that's going to accelerate in 2017. The second trend I want to highlight is around big data, and Graham kind of alluded to this earlier. There's a whole wealth of data that is available to us, and I always say that I get very bored of these conversations which are about volume, velocity, and variety of data that exists and how much data was created in the last 24 hours. And if you took all of that data and you put it onto 128 gigabyte iPads and you stacked all those iPads on top of each other, it might be taller than the Eiffel Tower. It means absolutely nothing. The key is getting insight out of that data. And Gartner had an interesting statistic that 80% of all investments in data lakes are essentially worthless. No value comes from all of that data that sits there. It's a terrifying statistic. So as we move through this year, we expect to see real value starting to come out of some of those investments, not because of the amount of data that exists, but because of the combinations of different elements of data which people are able to bring together to address a new business problem, to address a new use case. That ultimately will become much more solution-orientated in terms of the value that we're able to drive. And that will be the tipping point in terms of how we move to real value from all the data that exists. Not about the amount, but about the ability to drive combinations of data that drive new insight. The other element to this, and I'm deliberately using AI in the context of augmented intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence, is how we essentially drive augmented intelligence, not by delivering more advanced analytics, but advancing analytic capabilities. And I'll talk specifically about Qlik's view on this a little bit later. But there is a unique opportunity, there's a sweet spot that we can take advantage of in terms of the role that we have in terms of data scientists, that rich ability to build complex models, but combining that to the human ability, the intuition that we have as humans to ask a question, to look for that next thing that we need to understand. And then by combining that with advanced analytic capabilities, machine learning, we create this sweet spot. It's not about each of these things in isolation. It's a combination of these things coming together to create a unique opportunity. And that in itself then speeds time to insight and return on investment. So the key here is not necessarily about going out and building a great big predictive model that no one can access. It's about taking that insight and putting it into the hands of more and more people across the organization and across the ecosystem in which you work. So that's key. It's not going to be about automating everything we do as individuals today. And certainly, I believe in the world of BI and analytics, people are really at the heart of the process and will be for a long time to come. But making ourselves smarter by leveraging the technology that's available to us is key. And incidentally, probably one of the things I might have put on Graham's list, I was just talking about it with the team earlier, was perhaps around some of this machine learning and artificial intelligence. I think there's some great opportunities for us, as long as we embrace it in the context of a human being doing their job and asking that next question. The final component here is really about leveraging analytics, not as a destination, but actually analytics that come to you. If you think about the world of traditional BI, report-centric BI, predominantly was reaching around about 20-25% of the users within an organization. It's a very limited sphere of influence. And so this idea of everybody having their radar on, everybody being able to drive some type of new insight, being able to spot that opportunity, only giving that analytic power to 20% of people, and by the way, giving it to them in a way that's traditionally historic or backward-looking in terms of kind of more diagnostic analytics, isn't going to deliver the real value, isn't going to create the biggest opportunity for your organization. So modern BI platforms are essentially now, and will continue to emerge through 2017, that not only deliver analytic capabilities to a broader set of people within the organization, but actually start to extend that capability out to information, to operational workers, and those users that exist outside of the boundaries of your firewall, your customers, your partners, your distributors, your suppliers. So that ability to embed analytics at the point of decision in the business process, in the enterprise application that an individual is using, creates a huge opportunity and becomes the catalyst to reach more and more users across the organization. So this idea of embedded analytics and custom-built analytics for specific use cases is something that we will see accelerate dramatically over the course of 2017. And there's one additional component, this idea of essentially the role that cloud will play. And this is an interesting one because this is a set of predictions that a guy called Dan Summer, formerly a Gartner analyst, now works for Qlik, actually was the author of the trends that I'm talking about. He made a series of predictions a few years ago about cloud, and he famously quotes himself at Qlik that he was wrong in terms of the pace of adoption of cloud within the analytic use case. But Dan believes, and I happen to agree with him, that in 2017 we will reach that fundamental tipping point. That doesn't mean that in 2017 every cloud deployment that we work on, every cloud deployment that we deploy has to be in the cloud. But it means that we're building a strategy and a roadmap to understand how we get to analytics that leverage the opportunity to be deployed in the cloud. And it's not an either-or combination. Having to make a choice of whether you deploy on-premise or in the cloud is a one-time choice. True value comes from that option to deploy wherever you want, when you want. So in 2017, we're going to see this emergence of this idea of the hybrid cloud analytic platform begin to emerge. And that's something you'll be hearing from Qlik about as we move forward this year. All of these different components essentially are changing the relationship that we have with business intelligence. we're essentially seeing this continued and accelerated push, this decentralization from the IT organization, from the center of the business, out to the edges of the organization. It's occurring across 4 dimensions. Data centricity is not just about this idea of the volume, velocity, variety of data that is there, but it's about where that data resides. There's a couple of interesting predictions that by 2019, 2020, something like 75% of all analytic deployments will leverage external data. That's data that comes from outside of the organization, outside of the firewall. Could be subscribed to data, could be population data, could be social media data. And that data exists on-premise and it exists in the cloud. So as we're building a long-term analytic strategy, understanding where the data resides and where you want the computing power to reside is critical to the definition of that roadmap. That evolution comes through in terms of this idea of analysis centricity, this shift from report-centric business intelligence with only some analysis to a framework which is fundamentally analysis-centric with very little reporting. It's that shift from descriptive to diagnostic to predictive to prescriptive analytic capabilities. But here's the misnomer. People would have you believe that this is a journey that takes you from A to B to C to D, and it's absolutely not. This is a journey that encompasses all of those use cases. As our customers are getting more mature with their analytic use cases, they're not turning off their PDF pixel-perfect reporting. It's a fundamental part of their business, but they're augmenting that experience. So the breadth of analytic use cases that exist within an organization that need to exist with an analytic strategy are getting bigger and are getting broader. That in itself is the fuel by which more and more users can engage in analytic processes. That's the fuel that's powering the rise of the information activist. And we're seeing that today. Qlik essentially pioneered with QlikView the ability to go to the business user, to show value quickly. That continues to extend not just beyond the business user, the analyst, the information worker, but ultimately out to a whole range of developers that are engaged in business processes, that understand a business problem, and are essentially the key to unlocking new opportunities across our organization. That developer-centric approach is essentially the fuel that's driving the rise of the analytic platform as opposed to an analytic toolset or a stack of technology. That openness, that ability to extend and embed analytics is driven not by a singular tool or a singular visualization capability, but the ability to address any analytic use case. And that really is essentially the combination, the secret sauce that allows us to uncover new data-driven possibilities. It's about essentially moving from what I describe as the business intelligence pond, this idea of report-centric, end-user-driven business intelligence, to a place where we can empower users across the organization that understand different business processes to drive an endless sea of data-driven possibilities. When business intelligence was first conceived, and I spent part of my career at Business Objects, when business intelligence was first conceived, social media didn't exist. Half of the technologies that we talk about today didn't exist, but they all have a data component. They all drive an analytic use case. So the ability to uncover those opportunities is about reaching more people within the organization. But it's also about connecting all of those people to all of the data that they have available to them and all of the ideas that they have. And that's what enables us to drive more and more innovation in our individual business process, in the evolution of new business models, in the evolution in the way in which we monetize the data that is available to us. I won't spend a lot of time here, but we spent some time looking at really what it means to be data-driven. Empowering and reaching all of your people is about getting to that unempowered 75% of the organization. It's about facilitating agile decision-making And it's about putting the ability to make that decision at the point at which adds most value. Best-in-class organizations that are really connecting to all of the data are leveraging all of their data as an asset. A long time ago, I spent some time working on financial close projects at KPMG and PwC. And it was often said that if the Treasury Department took all of the cash that an organization had and stuck it in Main Street, High Street bank account, the Treasury Department would be fired. If human resources just did nothing and didn't invest in the human capital that exists in the organization, the human resource people get fired. So it's not okay to have this wealth of data that exists in the organization and not sweat that asset in exactly the same way. Best-in-class organizations are moving to essentially go beyond the enterprise in terms of where they get their data, but where they provide access to that data, reaching suppliers, distributors, customers, creating an immersive experience that's centralized around data. And they do that by embracing a governance framework that empowers end users. To the point that Graham made, it's also about the ability to experiment and fail fast, to ask any and the next question that comes along and drive new business models, new data-driven business models. So these kind of 9 characteristics really define, for me, what it means to be data-driven. And that ultimately is what creates an opportunity for you and is ultimately what Qlik is here to deliver. I'm going to go through each of these 3 components that make our offering unique, but as you'll hear later on today, are the foundation for our ability to deliver innovation to you and deliver unique capabilities that cannot be replicated across the market without these foundational components. So the first of these comes back, and I'm extremely passionate about this idea of a platform that addresses all of our visual analytic needs. This is the key to empowering all of the people that exist across the organization. Whether that's a guided analytic, centrally deployed guided analytic use case, a decentralized self-service environment, whether that's embedded analytics, custom-built analytics, or indeed the ability to deliver reporting and collaboration capabilities right across your set of use cases, that becomes the key to reaching that broader set of users. So our investment in a truly open, extensible analytic platform is the foundation and the pillar in which we can build out a whole range of new use cases for our customers and deliver new data-driven possibilities to them. But it's also about that happy marriage that needs to fundamentally exist between the business and IT. That agility that the business user needs, that time to value, not just in terms of the ability to build and deploy an analytic solution, but the ability to get an answer quickly, but at the same time meeting the performance, infrastructure, scalability, governance requirements that the IT organization has. So self-service in the context of an ungoverned environment simply results in chaos across the organization. So Qlik strategy is really about delivering a governed self-service environment. And I mentioned this earlier, that's not about controlling the organization. It's not about restricting what a business user can do. It's about providing a framework where users can trust the information that they have, know that their peers are looking at the same information, and use that to empower people to take more action based upon the data that's available to them. And the final component, really the underlying secret sauce of Qlik, is the associative model. That in-memory technology that we have is the fundamental reason why users of Qlik are able to see the whole story that lives within all of their data. It's not just about seeing part of the story across part of the data. And linear data visualization, more SQL-based solutions, take a very narrow view of the data that's available to you. They require you to have already thought about the questions you want to ask. They require you to have a predefined view of the data that is available to you, a predefined hierarchies of that data, and preconceived notions about how that data should be related to one another. The result is you only see part of the story. So a truly associative approach to data visualization and analysis that essentially means you don't have to have that preconceived notion, that allows you to freely explore and see how data is truly related, becomes the key for you to be able to ask that next question, to get that next level of insight. It's often what you don't see immediately where the opportunity lies. So those three components are the foundation for the portfolio that we have today. They're the reason why many of you, our customers, have invested with Qlik. For those of you that are prospects and are considering Qlik, they're the reasons that we will help you be successful with your deployment. But they're also the foundation on which we will drive new and unique innovation as we move forward. So the portfolio of solutions that we have today, our modern platform for analytics, essentially is driven across a number of components. At the center lies the Qlik's associative indexing engine. That's the foundation of the platform that we're able to deliver to market. Combining that platform, that engine, with the ability to reach any data source, data that we provide, data that you have within your organizations, outside your organizations, is the foundation for you to be able to drive those new use cases. And Qlik has shifted its focus over the course of the last 3 years from a one-product company to a platform organization where there are multiple applications that we can deliver to support multiple use cases across your organization. QlikView, of course, is at the heart of that strategy. 38,000 odd customers have invested in QlikView over the life of Qlik, and we remain committed to that solution. We committed with the release of QlikView 12 to an annual release cycle. We released 12.1 in November, and 12.2 will be delivered in November of this year. You'll hear more about the roadmap and the investment in QlikView. We're investing in new capabilities that work alongside QlikView, and we're investing in new compatibility capabilities that will allow that investment that you've made in QlikView, understanding that 60-70% of the design time, the build time of an analytics solution is the creation of that data model, making that data model freely available to other parts of our portfolio enables you to continue to expand your roadmap with Qlik. On top of that engine, we built the Qlik Analytics platform, taking the power of that engine with a management console, open APIs, and a governance framework that essentially allowed us to build QlikSense. So that same capability that we use to build QlikSense, whether it's the desktop, the enterprise solution, or the cloud solution, is available so that you can build any data-driven application that you can conceive of. I don't suggest you do what we did, which is build QlikSense, because we've already done that. We'll be continuing to invest in the QlikSense portfolio across a range of dimensions, whether it's data connectivity, whether it's new visualization capabilities, advancing our analytic capabilities with integration to advanced predictive analytics, natural language processing capabilities. We'll continue to enhance and augment the experience and the journey from desktop to enterprise and to cloud to support that hybrid deployment capability. And then we continue to add value-added services on top of that. Value-added solutions with Qlik Imprinting, and most recently with the addition of new advanced geoanalytic capabilities for both QlikView and QlikSense with our acquisition of Idivio and the release of the new Qlik Geoanalytics product line. But it's not just about the technology, it's not just about the products that we have, it's also about the ecosystem and the services that we and our partners can deliver, whether it's consulting, training, and education, or whether it's about the ability to bring a rich and vibrant community together to collaborate and innovate using Qlik technology. That's the foundation for further innovation, which Qlik doesn't need to be responsible for. There are some incredible demos that our partners are showing at the back of the room. I saw a couple of them this morning. really driving great new use cases and great new innovation. So that community and ecosystem is fundamentally as important as the technology that we deliver, and we intend to invest in both. So in terms of where the future takes us, what is our long-term goal? Well, essentially our long-term goal and our long-term roadmap is really about understanding that data exists everywhere. We have data on-premise, we have data in the cloud, and we've invested in big data solutions and data lakes. We need to drive more value from all of that information and make all of that data more available to more users across the organization. So our vision is simple. We're going to paint all of that data green. That doesn't mean we're going to load all of that data in memory, but our big data indexing capability will allow us to index across a whole host of data sources and make that data available in a governed, managed way so that users can engage in self-service analytics on all of the data that is available to them. We'll continue to ensure that we focus on that other key component, the data that we all own, the data that resides on our own individual desktops and our own individual cloud capabilities. So user-driven data is critically important. The next part of that journey then is to support any infrastructure. And really this is about making sure that Qlik runs on any platform that you are running in your organization. Whether that's on-premise infrastructure, private cloud, public cloud, edge computing capabilities, or any operating system. Our roadmap is designed to build all of that together around our platform vision in terms of a microservices-orientated architecture that allows us to innovate more quickly, allows our partners to innovate more quickly, and essentially allows us to deliver more value to you, our customers, in a much more streamlined way across any infrastructure that you have. And then the third component of that long-term vision is about bringing all of that insight together in any form of output that essentially is required, whether that's printed output, the introduction of mobile capabilities, new mobile offline capabilities that will be coming in the first half of this year, the extension of our self-service visualization capabilities, not just the ability to create an application, but to self-serve and explore within an application that's been delivered to you. The ability to create custom and web applications and embed that insight, embed those analytics in business and applications that your users are using across the organization. So our vision is to encompass all of that analytic usage, and to do that in a way that moves not just from visualization as a presentation layer, but to visualization that empowers you to gain insight and essentially extends to a new paradigm of search and voice recognition in terms of the way you interact with your data. Those three components around governed data, the platform, and analytic usage define our long-term roadmap, and they become the foundation by which we essentially are delivering a platform that will allow us to reach all of the data that exists in your ecosystem, to reach all of the people that exist within your ecosystem, both inside and outside your organization, and allow them to come together and collaborate around all of the ideas that they have. I want to thank you for your time this morning. I want to thank you again for the invite to be here in South Africa. There's a huge amount of value that we get from the opportunity to spend time with you. I hope that you enjoyed today's event, collaborate with your peers, speak to our partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. So now we're going to have a discussion on African perspective from QlikView. And for that, we're going to have two speakers come to the stage, Wolfgang Koubek, and was the regional VP for EMEA and Qlik, and Rob Godlinton. Let me just give you a little bit of a background. Wolfgang Koubek is the Managing Director for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland at QlikTech. He also has responsibility as Regional Vice President for Southern Europe. His extensive experience in the IT industry, who has held management positions in sales and marketing within various software companies. Rob Godlinton has joined EOH 8 years ago to grow the infrastructure and application development business within EOH. He has overseen the rapid growth of these businesses, including the outsourcing business, and is now the CEO for the Information Communications and Technology ICT division within EOH. Very enthusiastic duo over there. Please give them a warm round of applause. Gentlemen, over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I see quite a few people leaving the room. Hopefully that's not because Wolfgang and I are up here and we're talking about what's happening in Africa. Has been a long session, so I know they're taking comfort breaks. So firstly, on behalf of EOH, I'd really like to thank Wolfgang, Kerry, and the Click team for helping us put on this event and for being true partners for EOH. You know, EOH is one of our core philosophies is partnerships for life. And we have a phenomenal partnership with Click. And then, you know, to extend that to our partners, and I'm looking to the back there that have put up the expo area and that are working very closely with our Click team. Really would like to thank them for their support and what they do for us on a day-to-day basis to make this a success and to make Click a success here in South Africa. We really do appreciate Wolfgang, and he's going to share his view of what's happening in the Click world, but what's relevant to what's happening here in Africa. I see the strap line there. Does your world make sense for this event? And I'm going to explain to you why, from a CEO perspective, from my perspective, why my world makes sense when I'm working and leading our organization, EOH, the ICT division, why that makes sense. And a main reason for that is the phenomenal Click applications that we have access to within EOH, and I have access to within EOH, that is making my world sense, making the ability for myself and my leadership teams and our teams throughout the organization, whether that be sales, marketing, or HR, payroll, have the opportunity to make sense using the Click tool. So, you know, thank you very much to Wolfgang for joining us here. I'm going to hand over to him, and he's going to give you just a sense of what's actually happening in the Click world and how it will benefit you, our customers, here in Africa. Keep on wanting to say South Africa, but this is Africa, and I hope they are, and welcome to those people that have traveled from the rest of Africa to join this session. So.